Good afternoon, sinners. I'm here at the Screen Futures Youth Festival, discussing games with Stefan Schutze. He's a sound designer who's worked in the game industry in various capacities, and we're talking about violence in video games. Now, Stefan. Oh, it's all right. Horrible. I feel so rude. Stefan, we've had violent video games, graphically not necessarily realistic, but very graphic, violent video games for something like 2 decades now,
at least,
or around that.
Yeah.
When is the generation of bloodthirsty killers going to come upon us?
Apparently they're already here.
They're already here.
Apparently games are the new evil. Look, I think, all joking aside, this is one of the things that's been around for many years, of like, whether it be rock and roll music, as we were talking about, or television or film. It is interesting that our society is quite happy with depictions of very, very graphic violence in films, simply just because we've gotten used to it, and now there are a lot of films that are actually making huge amounts of money. So it's very, very hard to sort of say, oh, you should stop doing this when it's employing lots of people and making lots of money. There's a bit of a perception that the game industry is still this little cottage industry that only involves children, and so it's now become the whipping boy of if there's something bad in society, we'll blame games for it. In the same way in the 1950s it was rock and roll, as we said.
But I mean, given recent game sales, I'm thinking of Call of Duty. I think Modern Warfare 2 was the biggest media release, at least the first weekend ever in...
Correct. Modern Warfare 2 broke all the records. Yeah,
breaking all the records. So while there's still a perception that it's this cottage industry, it really is just a perception.
Oh, absolutely.
So how long do you think it'll take, or what will it take for that perception to change? Or is it just a matter of time?
I think it's two things. I think partially it's a matter of time. One of the problems with a lot of different medias is, one of the reasons why rock and roll, again as the example, was bad in the 50s is because all the older generation didn't listen to it. So, anything that they didn't like, and they're the people who are in power. I mean, in general, if you look at the generation that happens to be in power in politics or in running companies or whatever, if you're looking at people who are sort of 50 to 60 years old, they have no attachment to whatever the current form of media is. In the same way that we get these days, we've got politicians who make ridiculous and laughable descriptions and conversations about the internet, which proves that they have no understanding of how it works. These are people who are so detached from whatever the current technological era is and what the current type of entertainment is. So they don't get techno music, and they don't get whatever the current drugs are. They're quite comfortable with their drugs from their era, which is alcohol and tobacco. Nobody's going to ban tobacco, even though it probably kills more people than a lot of other drugs do. And this is because the people who are in power understand tobacco, they understand film, they understand rock and roll now because it's been around for long enough. They don't understand the internet, they don't understand computer games and mobile phones. So it's not so much that the perception of these games needs to be broadened, it just needs to be given time where the next person who's, Minister for Communication and Technology happens to be somebody that was playing World of Warcraft with his kids, and he understands that it's not some evil thing that's going to be the downfall of civilization. By that stage, there'll be some new thing that'll be the downfall of civilization, and that's actually the other factor. One of the other things that will stop people complaining about video games is when they've got something new to blame.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, Stefan. It's been a pleasure. Welcome.